Welcome back to our series with Steve. In part one, we heard how Steve faced his diagnosis and embraced a new reality. Today, we move into the chapter of hope and perseverance, the journey of his acceptance to extraordinary achievements. From discovering Paralympic paracycling to building trust with his tandem partner. Steve's resilience carried him all the way to Paralympic gold and national recognition. This episode is about hope transformed into action and the power of discipline, trust, and belief. Let's get into the screen again and continue the conversation with Steve. So the theme here is hope transformed into achievement, acceptance to achievement. So this is where you get to tell us how you became an MB. So I'd like to read something from your website. Well, this is something you have said. I just want to read it to you.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it goes. But by then, I had worked something out for myself. There wasn't much I could do about my degenerating eyesight, but I had total control over what I did next. Just like everyone else, I wasn't going to be on this planet forever, so I might as well make every moment count. And how much I let my condition get in the way was completely up to me. This is from your website.
Very
I
profound.
would like to know where the statement came from.
I think it's that the realization about you've got the situation going on, but that doesn't have to dictate everything, right? It's going to dictate some things. Some things are controllable and some things are not controllable. Me now losing my eyesight is out of my control, but how I choose to spend the rest of my time and what I do is totally in my control. So I guess it's kind of, like I said earlier, it's like that, it's about choices, and it's about choosing to carry on rather than dwelling on what's going to happen. Just like it's going to happen. I can't change that, but what I can change is how I live my life now. So I guess that's where that kind of statement came from, I suppose.
But I like to assume that as an outdoor instructor, your eyesight is very important to you. You're not like someone who sings, whose major resource or major tool is their voice.
Oh no, you don't want to hear me sing.
No. But as an outdoor instructor, your main physical attribute is your eyesight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from the way you talk about it, you like it. You like the job you do. You're a carpenter as well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be cutting your fingers. I did a bit of pre-technical skills back in elementary school. It's compulsory for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the act of, putting your thumb to guide the saw, and you need to be careful not to saw your thumb. So for someone like you whose eyesight is very important to them, how did learning you are going to lose your sight make you feel, especially with regards to affecting your ability to do the things you love most?
Wow. Profoundly. Like I say, it had a massive impact on me initially. It's it stopped me doing everything, like I said. I tell you what though, now I would say I'd say was the missing piece of the puzzle. I needed to be who I am. I think that is, I there's no way I would have become who I am today without that diagnosis back in 2011. So, at the time, it was the biggest disaster of my life. Like, it was just like the worst thing I could think of hearing is you're gonna go blind and you're gonna lose your sight. And I sit here now and I would say it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Hey, sweet.
Mm.
So tell us about the cycling. I mean, you alluded a bit to it in the initial part when you said you spoke to your friend Karen and she proposed that to you.
Mm.
And then, of course, well, so just tell us about the cycling. I mean, you did say already that you liked cycling, but how did you get into Paralympic cycling? I mean, for crying
Yeah,
out loud, you're in your 30s. And
I
that,
know, I was
and
an
then
old man.
in the 30s, almost,
I had no business being an
if
athlete at 35.
unless you're Cristiano Ronaldo in your 30s, you are retiring
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
as an
yeah,
athlete, as a
yeah,
sportsman.
yeah,
You take off
absolutely.
Cristiano Ronaldo and a few of the and Messi and a few people like that, and everybody else should be retiring at 35. Like you're an old man. That's grandpa level in sports.
It is. Yeah, yeah,
So
you're
how in the
absolutely right.
world
Yeah.
did you decide this was the beginning of your athletic career?
Yeah, I know. It was madness, and it still it still makes me laugh now. So basically the whole Paralympic cycling thing came about through this eye diagnosis. Like I never would have gone down that route um, if I hadn't have got this diagnosis. I would have kept playing in the mountains, trying to be a mountain guide, and would have been happy, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, this it was the whole. So I guess to take you back, I before I started the cycling, I once I kind of accepted the fact I was going to lose my eyesight, I set myself a challenge, right, and that was to climb El Capitan, and that was for no other reason but to prove to myself that I could still be the person I wanted to be. I was a climber, so I went and climbed one of the biggest rock faces on the planet, um, and it
All right,
wasn't. And
just for clarity, did you have this dream before the eyesight issue, before the diagnosis, or this
yeah,
El
so
Capitan dream?
Yeah, so if you're a rock climber, like El Capitan's like in the Yosemite Valley in California is like the holy grail of climbing, right? Um, and every
So it's
climber,
like winning the World Cup,
yeah,
the
yeah,
football
exactly.
World Cup.
Climbing that is like winning the World Cup, and for every climber, I don't like anyone who rock climbs knows about El Cap, and everyone wants to climb it. And anyone who says, "Oh no, I'm not interested in that," they're lying because it's such a it's like say like playing football and going, "Well, I play in the Premiership, but I don't want to go to World Cup. I'm happy in the Premiership." It's like, yeah, nah, mate. You want to play for your country on the biggest stage in the world, right, and the biggest competition of the world, and that's what rock climbing is, El Capitan. And so, but like I said to you, like at the start, I was a dreamer. I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to go and do that, but I never would have gone and done it. But that was the thing which changed when I decided, like, if I've only got 4 years, I need to make things happen. And LCAP was one of those things, and that was happened to be the first thing. Um, so I trained for about a year to prepare for that. Um, and I was out there for 3.5 weeks, climbed El Capitan 3 times. And the last one, which is the most significant one, was I climbed that by myself. So I solo climbed it. Um, and that took me 6 days to do. All by myself. I spent 6 days on a vertical rock face, a kilometer high, and crawled over the top of it. And I was just like, oh wow, I'm living. This is me now. Like, this is me realizing my potential and what I'm
Okay,
capable of.
okay, hang on there. For myself and for the sake of other people who may be listening who are not into rock climbing, we just have to walk this through. You just have to walk us through this.
Mhm.
Indoor, not outdoor in this case, but you need to be our indoor guide to understand what climbing El Capitan means. You
Mhm.
said, okay, so I do understand the significance of it. It's like lifting the World Cup trophy for every footballer. Is that the highest rock face to be climbed in the world? Is that why that is the holy grail? Is that the most difficult, or that's the tallest? What makes it
No,
the holy grail?
no, I just think it's the history that it has and the position where it is. As I think there are rock faces that are higher. Um, I'm sure there are rock faces on the planet that are harder. But it's just the significance of where it is, the history of it. Um, it's just a mad place. It's the most beautiful place on the planet that I've seen. And I say to everyone, even if you're not a rock climber, if you get a chance to go to the Yosemite Valley, go and check it out because it will blow your mind. It is absolutely incredible. It's like if God created the wonderful world of nature, like he did a great job of that valley. He did a great job of that valley, you know. So
Yeah, he
yeah.
sure did.
Mm,
So my next one in you guiding us, you said you spent 6 days on the rock face.
hmm
Did you mean 6 times 24 hours?
hmm
That's let's see, 24 times 6. How much is that?
120
hundred
something
and
hours.
forty-four hours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you? So normal human beings fall asleep. How did you sleep?
I
How did you
slept
go to the
in
toilet?
a. Everyone asks that question. So sleeping, you sleep in a hammock. Basically, it's like a stretcher. It's called a portaledge. So it's basically like a aluminium frame with a canvas, a stretcher bed that you would have slept on at your camp. But instead of having legs on it, it's got straps at each corner so that go up to a central point. So you basically hook that onto the rock, and you've got a hammock that you sleep on, which is super cool. Uh, the toilet thing is uh, number one, you can just pee over the edge. Number two, you have to poo in a bag and carry it off with you because it is a national park. So you can't just lob that over the side of your portal edge. You've got to carry that. So you have what's called a waste case, which is like a bag which all your waste goes in, and then you carry that with you. And when you get to the top, you walk off and you dump that waste case in a bin.
Okay, so every day you stop somewhere
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
sleep, right?
hmm Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
you stop somewhere like above you. So every day you climb. So I was probably climbing, I don't know, whatever, like maybe 150 to kind of 200 meters a day, I suppose. And yeah, so at the end of every day, like I think I'd climb till about 5:30 in the evening. And then yeah, set up my portaledge, get my gear out, get my sleeping bags out, and tuck in for the night and just hang out on the ledge and watch the sun set and look down at the valley. And you could be, well, at the start you're a couple of 100 meters off the ground. By the last days you're 800 meters off the ground. It's pretty phenomenal. And yeah, just hang out on your own, and there's a lot of time in your own headspace up there. So yeah, I guess I kind of worked through a lot of these kind of, I guess, these visual impairment demons that I was fighting, and got to peace with them, really.
Yeah. So that leads to my next question. Before you got diagnosed, right? You'd said that you'd be walking with your mate Ibrahim, and
Mhm,
you'd trip over something, and they thought you were just trying to be funny, but
mhm,
apparently it was indication of something serious. So you're tripping over stuff while walking with your friend, with your mate, with your buddy.
mhm,
Can you walk us through how a guy who's already tripping over stuff, walking with people, decides to go to a rock face, climb? Because you said you did it 3 times, but there was one time you did it all by yourself. So can you walk us through? Well, surely, yeah, there's something with a wrong diagnosis that does something to you mentally that surely makes you do things you would normally wouldn't do. Because in your own words, the regular rock climber hasn't done it. The regular rock climber who has his sight intact
mm,
hasn't done it. You who has lost your peripheral vision, who trips when walking with people,
Mm.
struggles to find his own car keys when it falls on the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Please walk us through the experience of, at this point, you're not living in your house alone where you're familiar with, but you're climbing a rock face, stopping over in the night to sleep, continuing day by day, putting your poo in a sack and making sure you don't lose it, and being accountable when you come down. But please walk us through how that process is for someone losing their sight, mentally, physically, visually.
Hmm. Well, the whole, I guess this was the whole point of doing this. Like, I'm not a brilliant rock climber. I'm very average. I'm a very, I'm not a phenomenal climber at all. But for me, doing this again, the whole point to this wasn't to try and break any records about being the first visually impaired blind person to solo this route or anything. It was about proving to myself that I could still do what I wanted to do. And these like we spoke about earlier about like dreams, right? And these are some of those dreams, and it's nice to achieve dreams. It's nice to have dreams, but it's nice to tick them off as well. And I guess for me, it was, that was really the I would say the real turning point of acceptance, and just that. Oh right, okay, yeah, I'm good. I've got a handle on this now. Like I know, I don't know what direction my life's going to go, but I know it's going to be okay. I know now I've done this and proven this to myself. I know whatever happens, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I also think that probably gave you a certain sense of urgency as well, right? Because you're like, how bad can this go? Well, I probably have 4 years of good eyesight. I might as well make the most out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe sometimes we need that kick. And as you rightfully said, you probably wouldn't have done this if you hadn't had this diagnosis. And
No, no, not at all. Like that's the whole missing piece of the puzzle. That was the one bit I needed to be complete myself to be able to go and do these things and understand that, because the reality is it's not, the thing about climbing El Cap or winning gold medals isn't about losing your sight, right? That's just about doing things everyone else can do, which is just work hard to achieve a goal. That's all it is. It's just believing in the process, believing that, you're giving yourself a chance. It might not happen, but the harder you work towards it happening, the more chance there is of it happening. Whereas if you go the other way and you don't do anything and you just dream you wish it happened, then it will never happen because it's a wish. There's not a process. Um, so yeah, like, I'm this is the bit that I always find really awkward because like I'm just a normal dude. I'm just a normal dude who just has an idea in his head and then works really hard to try and achieve that idea. Um, and LCAP was one of them. Going to the Paralympics was another one, and now being a really good carpenter is the next step to that. It's just that's yeah, that's how I roll. But I'm no extraordinary person. I'm just a really ordinary person. Um, who probably gets a little obsessed about things, which is you know, maybe it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
so, whilst climbing El Capitan, did you at any point think or doubt if you were going to make it to the top? And again, this is not about a record, but this is like you're like, yeah, before I lose the sight, let me fulfill this dream. I'm no longer a dreamer. I want to do.
Hmm.
You took 6 days to do it, and I'm more interested in the time you did it alone.
Hmm.
Did you at any point have a cause to think or doubt? that, oh, maybe this might not happen? Um, was there any point in time where you felt, oh, maybe I should go back and get my guide to go back up with me again?
Yeah,
What were the mental, what was the mental journey?
the hardest thing to do was start that first move off the ground. That was by far the hardest. That was the hardest move I had to make out of the whole thing. Was starting, and I remember my friend who I was there with, Andy. I was we'd climbed it twice. Uh, we came down after the second time we'd climbed it together, and I was just like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. I literally thought I was going to kill myself trying. I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And Andy was brilliant because Andy, who's climbed El Cap about 35 times now and soloed it probably about, I don't know, 10 times or something like that. He's very, very good. But he never passed judgment on me, or he never said I had to do it or didn't have to do it. He just said, well, it's up to you. It's your choice. We're here. It's beautiful. Sun shining. If you don't want to climb that, we can go and climb something else smaller, whatever. There was no kind of, he didn't push me one way or the other. He didn't push me or pull me and just like, whatever you do what you do, you do what you have to do. So I kind of panicked for 2 days. I wanted to do it, but I was just so scared. And in the end, I came back and said, right, I'm gonna do it. And he said, okay, great. Well, let's take all your gear up in the morning, and then you can start. And then, so I went to bed that night, and I was just like, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm gonna start tomorrow. That's cool. And I woke up in the morning and just thought, oh my God, what am I thinking? This is the dumbest idea you've ever had. And anything I could do to get out of it, anything I could do to not start was like, to the point where walking up, I even thought about trying to break my own ankle because I thought, well, I can't climb out with a broken ankle, and no one can hold that against me if I've broken my ankle walking up. It just what an unfortunate accident. But honestly, this is what was going through my head walking up to the start of the climb. And, I couldn't even do that. I was too scared to break my own ankle. So I arrived at the bottom of the climb, and it was just like, Andy was like, oh, well, there's no one on the route, so I might as well get going. And it was like, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And the thing that made me start sorting out was I was like, right, okay, well, I took out my iPod back in the days of iPods and put some music on and just started to listen to a bit of music. And I was like, well, I might as well sort all my gear out because I'm going to have to, get it into some sort of organized chaos. And so that just, and I'd done that hundreds of times, training, right? And the year before, this is every time I went to the crag to train, I'd arrive, I'd put my music on, I'd sort all my stuff out, and then I'd start climbing. And that was just I just went into autopilot. And I was just going through the motions of things that I'd done hundreds of times before. So I, sorted everything out and stuff like that. And by the time I was ready to climb, I was so happy. And I was like, I made one move off the ground. I was like, yeah, let's go climb El Cap. And I was only a foot off the ground, but I was like, I'm going to the top of this thing. And from that first move onwards, I never doubted the fact that I wasn't going to get to the top. I was going. That was it. There was never any doubt once I started climbing that I wasn't going to be able to do it. And yeah, thankfully I did it, because I'm not sure what would have happened if I got halfway up and something crazy happened and I had to come back down. But yeah, starting was the biggest hurdle of the whole thing.
I've just been soaking it in.
Does that put it into perspective? I mean, it's phenomenal. I always say without El Cap, without that experience of climbing El Cap and having that 6 days on my own on that rock face and the self-belief that gave me, not the arrogance, the self-belief, of actually I can achieve great things. That led me to the Paralympics, because that was when I came back to the UK from El Cap, that was the next thing. Karen had planted the seed in my head about going to Mallorca with her and training on a bike and going to the Paralympics. Well, I was like, well, I've basically just won the World Cup of climbing, so there's no point going back to the local rock faces here because that'll be pretty boring. after you've just, climbed one of the best faces in the world. So maybe I should
The
try.
coup de grace.
Yeah, so maybe I should try the cycling thing, and maybe, just maybe, I'll go to a Paralympics. Wouldn't that be crazy? And that's how it started.
Great. So, I mean, in both the preparation for El Capitan and or Paralympic cycling, how has resilience showed up in your daily grind of preparation? Because I mean, you've spoken about the challenges with the El Capitan part where you thought, where you even considered breaking your ankle so that it would look like an accident, and then nobody judges you. Fast forward, you're back, you're a Paralympic cyclist. As we've shared, and I shared personally on my side about the daily struggles. I haven't mentioned the fact that I fainted about 3 times in the hospital. That's what I remember.
Okay.
How did resilience show up? Either in you said a lot about the old captain, so especially with the Paralympic cycling, how does resilience show up every day in your preparation, and even in the middle of a race? How does that show up?
Yeah, I think it's mate, like you say, it's a day in, day out occurrence. Like every day, for training, I'm gonna have to put my body through challenges, through hardship, to get fitter and get stronger. And whether that's in the gym lifting weights, or that's out for riding 6 or 7 hours, some days, in horrible weather. That is, it's just a case of, the there's a job that needs to be done for me to be the best that I can be. So I just have to get on and do it and accept the fact that it's probably not going to be that pleasant. It's not going to be all fun and sunshine and riding around with your mates. It's going to be head down, working hard, and getting what needs to be done. And it's a very simple process. You wake up, you look at what is on your training plan for that day that the coach has written you, and then you try and execute that plan as best as you can. And then you eat dinner at night and fall asleep absolutely exhausted, and then you wake up again and you do the same thing. And you do that day in, day out for 2.5 years, and you find yourself at a Paralympic final. And then you've got to manage the expectations of God knows how many million people are watching you about to try and win a gold medal. Can you do it or can't you? But thankfully that wasn't really at the front of my mind at that point. It was just kind of, again, kind of like I said with starting LCAP, is the whole point of training is so that when it comes to the big day of racing, you've got this process that you're following. And so you put your music in. That day I jumped on the turbo trainer to warm up in the track center, and then 35 minutes later, I was on the start line, listening to the countdown of the beeps going about to race in a Paralympic final. And all I could think about was, oh, well, at least if this goes bad, I'm not going to die. It's not like if you have a bad day in El Capitan and you fall off that, you're going to die. At least this, I might have a bad day, but I'm just going to end up with a bit sore because I've fallen off a bike. But it's yeah. So that, it's but that's perspective, right? Like that's, and that was how everyone always wants to know. It's, oh, how did you go from being a non-cyclist in 2.5 years on day one of the Paralympics in Rio, racing the qualifier, breaking the world record, then going into the final, biggest, arguably the biggest moment of your life. And how did you keep your head together? And that was exactly it. I climbed LCAP. I didn't die doing that, so I wasn't going to die doing this. My biggest fear of climbing LCAP was killing myself. For this, I was just riding around inside for 16 laps of a track. It's like, well, that's all I've got to do. And if I do it as well as I did it, 6 hours before, we might have a chance of winning a medal. Well,
Okay.
we're definitely going to win a medal, but we might have a chance of winning a gold one.
So I have a quick question here, and I need to ask before I forget. El Capitan, you doing El Capitan makes sense to me, right? You are a climber.
Hmm.
You are into that side of life, into that space, and you
Yeah.
figure out, okay, my time is limited. Let me make the best out of it. That drives you to do El Capitan.
Yeah.
Now I know you've spoken about Karen suggesting Paralympic cycling to you.
Hmm.
Outside that, apart from her suggesting, what made you do something that you were never into to start with? I can understand El Capitan.
Mm.
That's the holy grail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let
It's
me
a good
get this
question.
done.
Yeah.
This is the highest
Yeah.
peak of mine.
Yeah.
But why would you get into something that you're not even
No
already into?
business in. Yeah. Um, it came down to that question about what is my potential? And I kind of briefly touched on climbing LCAP gave me a understanding of what my potential could be. Um, so basically, the whole reason for going into cycling was to see if I could be the best in the world at something. Because the thing with going into professional sport is you have all the support, right? You've got the best coaches, the best nutritionists, the best S&C coaches, all of this thing surrounding you, right? Whereas LCAP, I was all on my own there, and I was having to work everything out on my own. Whereas actually, if I go into that professional sport environment, I've got all these people around me that can tell me, like, I don't need to work out how to be a better climber. Um, in terms of the relationship with that, I don't need to work out how I become a better cyclist. I've got a coach that'll tell me how I become a better cyclist. All I've got to do is follow their training plan, and I'll be a better cyclist. If I want to lose weight, I don't have to work out how I'm going to lose weight. I go and see the nutritionist and say, how do I lose weight? And she says, stop eating, you dickhead. It's like, so all of a sudden you've got this massive support network around you. And I thought, wow, if I've got all of the support, I wonder if I can be the best in the world at something. And it didn't matter what it was, whether it was cycling or cricket or soccer or anything. But that cycling gave me that opportunity to see. So that's why I went down that. And to be honest, it was the chance to become a Paralympian, to go to a Paralympics. And when I started, it wasn't even a case of, you know, oh, I'm going to be a, double gold medalist or whatever. I wasn't even dreaming about the thought I could win a medal. It was just a case of going. God, imagine saying you went to a Paralympic Games. Isn't that incredible? And,
Yeah.
it's like 11 days after my first Paralympic Games and I've got 3 medals. And it's like, how's that just happened? And it really was, it's like it surprised a lot of people, including myself. I mean, I think a lot of people would, like that have known me from when I was younger. Like I never represented any top teams when I was at school or club rugby or anything, any sports when I was younger. I never played in the first squad. I was never good enough. So it's not like I'm some sort of freak athlete who was just like, oh, well, at 35, I decided now I'm going to go cycling, win some gold medals. Um, it just came down to me trying to find what my potential was and trying to understand what I can do with my body, and just seeing what I'm capable of. That's all it was. It was just a big project to see, wow, how fit can I get, or how good could I get? Could I be the best in the world at something if I had that support? And um, it turns out that yeah, you could. You can with the right support and the right people around you. You can be the best in the world. It doesn't take. Everyone says Ronaldo's the most gifted, or Messi's the most gifted footballer on the planet, but you look at the hours of training those guys put in. It's not by chance. It's not by luck. Sure, they've got some minerals. They've got some minerals, but there's a massive chunk of hard work that goes into it. And I guess for me, it's like I had the mindset right. We call it grit here in the UK, or like in the Western world, it's like you're tough. You've got a bit of grit about it. When things get hard, you dig in. You push back. You don't just roll over. You push back. And And I guess I've got a, like I learned, I've got a lot of that grit, and LCAP taught me that. And I got a lot of resilience because I had to deal with a lot of that through my eye diagnosis and LCAP. Um, and actually, if you've got a couple of those things, actually being fit and doing the racing, that's the easy part, right? Like anyone, any coach can coach people to ride a bike, but what a coach can't coach people is to how do you push back when things get hard? How do you find the next gear? How do you go deeper? How do you never give up? That's the hard thing. You can't teach people. They have to learn that. They have to find that within themselves. And like we said before, it's like you have to go through hardship to understand, what resilience is and how you can get through. I mean, do you think before your accident, if someone came to you and said, "Hey Pierre, man, imagine if you had half your body burnt off, do you reckon you could recover from that and get through that?"
Well, you have to go through it to realize you can get out of it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
If you haven't been
absolutely.
through it, you don't know if you can go through it.
Yeah, you don't know if you can find the way, and you can find the way, but you need to work out the way. It's like, like I said in that last bit of info I gave out at the end of the first session. It's like you have to allow yourself time to work out how you're going to work it out. And that's the thing. It's like I'm sure you'll find a way, but it may not be as quick as you want. And I think that's
Yeah.
the world we live in now. Is everyone wants everything yesterday. Everyone wants everything now. No one wants to like work hard for something, or very few people want to work hard for something that means something of value. People just want to have it now.
Yeah. There was something you said about you have to find that out for yourself, what you can do, how to do it. And I totally agree with that because while there's a place for people to encourage you, there's a place for people to show you what you can and what you can't do. In your journey, you had Karen who proposed the idea to you. You had your friend who took you to El Capitan, who helped you with the first few climbs. But there is a point which is an inside job and can only be done by yourself.
Mhm.
You need to spend that time alone. You need to be alone with yourself and think through it yourself and encourage yourself. And in in a fitness trainer's words, dig deep.
Mm.
He's American. He's called Shanti. In his
Oh,
words, he
okay, yeah,
say,
yeah.
dig deep.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd add to that, make mistakes, right? You have to make mistakes, um, because if you don't make mistakes, you're never going to learn anything, And for your example, it's like when you wanted to show that physiotherapist about, oh look, I can sit up now, and you made a mistake. You didn't know you were making one, but you made a mistake, and like you said, that put you back loads, but God, the lessons you would have learned off the back of that mistake. I bet you didn't make that mistake again.
No.
So um, so everyone, I think the fear of failure stops people from doing a lot of things, stops people from starting. And for me with LCAP, that was definitely the fear of failing climbing LCAP was almost stopping me start it. And I just think like my mother used to always say to me, "Oh, just try, you'll never know. You'll never know if you don't try." And that used to do my head in when I was young. It's like, "Oh yeah, but I'm gonna be rubbish at this, mum." And she's like, "Well, you'll never know if you don't try." And she's absolutely right, as mothers normally are. But yeah, it's and you have to try things, and you have to fail, and that's okay because that's part of the learning process. Ronaldo doesn't kick every goal. Every time he kicks a ball, he doesn't score a goal, and he's missed. Probably some absolutely super important goals he's missed. But that's all part of the process. And that's
Hey,
just
hey,
life.
I can tell you on the since you're talking about football, the all-time leading goal scorer in Ghana in Ghanaian football. His name is Asamoah. He's up there. I think it'll take a while before anyone even gets close or surpasses him.
Mhm.
in light of what you're saying, well, he's also missed a lot of chances as well,
Yeah, absolutely,
but
yeah.
he's the most successful and the highest number as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, unless you're kicking the ball at the goal, if you're not even taking that kick, well, you're never gonna score a goal. That's the thing. You have to kick the ball in the first place in that direction to score a goal. So if you're just going to run around and not even kick the ball, well, you're never going to score a goal. So you have to accept the fact that you are going to miss once in a while, before you're going to get it in. And that's just life. That's just the reality of
If you
life.
don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yeah,
If
well,
you don't ask,
exactly. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
always no.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. So, this is it's I guess it goes back to my point where it is uncomfortable. Success is uncomfortable. It's never a straight line. I've seen so many great diagrams of like here's you at the start and here's your goal, and the route to success of that goal is a straight line, and it's just so like false. It's like all these things that go backwards, and in your recovery. I'm picking like you had good days and you had bad days, and you had days that set you back, and you have days where you just think, oh, I've cracked it here. And then 2 days later, you're going, oh God, I'm back in the bed and I've got someone feeding me again. It's just never,
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine your recovery was a straight line of like, I've had this accident, and then in 145 days, I'm going to walk out of here. And that's just been a dead straight line upwards.
I can I can tell you one side of it. Uh, the the fact that my recovery wasn't linear. So been in the hospital for 145 days, gone through 3 surgeries, 12 blood transfusions. Eventually, I get discharged, and so I went home on the 31st of December 2020. So in the whole of 2021, I'm at home. I go to the hospital every now and then for my wounds to be dressed, for the dressing to be changed. With time, the wounds on my arms start healing. With time, my face is healing. The color is changing back. I'm getting darker again. But guess what? In March 2022, I had to be readmitted into the hospital again because there were just some of the wounds that wouldn't heal. So I had to be readmitted for a final surgery. Again, that tells you it's not straight
Hmm.
because I'd been at home for a whole year and every other wound was healing, but these ones weren't. Again, there was one of the times I fainted in a hospital again. So the first time I remember now, as I said, it's 3 times that I remember. The first time was in the ICU. Fast forward, I've been discharged from the ICU. I moved to the main ward, and I had the schedule where around 4 a.m., 4:30 in the morning, I would take a walk around in the hospital with the help of a nurse. So I have that schedule. I'd wake up 4:30, go for that walk, and the thought process was that the hospital was less busy at that time. This is 4:30 a.m. in the morning, 4:30,
Hmm.
5 a.m. in the morning. All patients are not there yet, and everybody else is sleeping, so it's quiet. You wouldn't be in anyone's way, and no one would be in your way. So going for that walk with the nurse, I get to a point where I stop, and he was just picking up something for me. And in a split second, I remember leaning against the wall. The next thing I remember, I was flat out on the ground. I had fainted again.
Hmm.
Um, he helped me up with a couple of other nurses. I go into a wheelchair. I was taken back to the room. And that was it for that day, for that
You're
morning.
bad for walking at 4 a.m. again.
Yeah. But that didn't stop me from walking the next day.
Hmm.
Well, maybe I didn't go the next day. I don't exactly remember. But
Yeah.
what I know for sure is that wasn't the last day I walked
Hmm.
at 4 a.m. or 4:30.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are setbacks, but
Yeah.
that
And
doesn't
that,
stop me.
and yeah, exactly. It's just life, isn't it? Like life is full of setbacks and lessons, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
okay if it's not plain sailing.
I just have one more, well, 2 more questions. One is your partnership with Adam Duggleby.
Hmm.
This is for the sake of those who do not know what Paralympic cycling is. And I was one of them until I had to do a bit of research into this conversation. But for the sake of, and well, yeah, prior to 2011, you didn't know about this as well. So don't pretend
Yeah, oh, yeah, I no clue,
you're
but
the
yeah,
expert
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah. Well, I am
but,
now, but
but, but for the sake of those who don't understand the concept of Paralympic cycling, and I've heard the name Adam Duggleby. If you can just give us a short description of how it happens and how you your reliance and partnership
Mm.
with regards to teamwork and humility as well in Paralympic cycle.
Yeah. So for my classification, obviously visually impaired, it's deemed that it's not safe for me to race a bike on my own. Um, so we race on tandems as visually impaired or blind people. So we have what's called a sight pilot, and that is we call him abled body cyclist. So he's, their limbs and eyes and everything work well, especially their eyes. They normally have pretty good eyes. Um, yeah, they ride on the front, right? So they make all the decisions, they control the gears, the brakes, everything. All you're doing is providing power on the back. The nickname for people who ride on the back is called a stoker. Okay, they're just the allegedly the powerhouses, but to be honest, most of the time, the person at the front is the stronger of the two riders. Um, and Adam, I was paired with Adam, and I think about 2014, I think, right at the start of my career. And Adam was a pretty elite cyclist in his own right. So he had won national titles, very good. He'd been on the Great British Olympic program as a youngster. So he didn't quite make the Olympic squad, but that's the sort of caliber that you're talking about in terms of how good a bike rider he was. He was a class act before I made him better. He loves it when I say that.
Well, yeah, well, in all fairness, if it wasn't for you, he wouldn't have any gold medal,
No,
right?
no, he wouldn't. No, 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 no. But
Yeah,
in saying that, it is
he
a
didn't
massive, massive
he didn't
team
make it
effort.
on
Yeah.
his own. He needed a blind guy, a visually
He needed
impaired
a
guy
blind
to
guy to
help him
help
to
him, yeah.
get a
To
medal.
lead him
So
to lead him to the gold medals. That's what
exactly.
happened, yeah. But yeah, no, Adam, jokes aside, like Adam, I was brand new to cycling. I was a rock climber and I was completely oblivious. And, Adam was, professional pretty much. So, he taught me how to race bikes. He taught me how to ride bikes, taught me how to train. I owe him so much. I raced for the first 7 years of my career with him, 2 Paralympic games. We won 4 medals. We've broken a world record. We've got countless national records. Yeah, we had a great, we had a great time, and he's still on the team. He's now racing with he'll be racing this year with a new youngster. So yeah, he's a good few years younger than me. I think he's about 40 or 42 now, I think. So I finished when I was 48, I think. So he's got a good few years left in him yet. So yeah, but he's like, in terms of longevity, it's like he's an amazing guy. He's been racing bikes since he was a kid. And at 42, he's still at it at the highest level. It's incredible. Like I couldn't do that. Just to do
yeah,
one thing your whole life. It's like, but he's super motivated, and every day wants to get better, and he's a great role model, and for me, he was part of the reason why I got so good as fast as I did, because of he set a very high standard of what he expected of me, and I tried to live up to that.
great. So before we wrap up this session as well, um, again, from your experience, and we've probably answered that in both of our discussions, but just to summarize it, how can hope fuel perseverance until extraordinary results emerge? I mean, this is coming from a champion. So how can hope help and fuel
I think
perseverance for
I,
you
I
to get
think
results?
yeah, I think it becomes down to like it's a process, right? So you have a dream or a goal, and then you need a plan to achieve that goal. Like that's all it is, right? Whether you're talking about LCAP or you're talking about gold medals or you're talking about running 5K, it's all the same thing. Like so if that's your goal, um, and then you need to work out how you're going to achieve that and what the barriers and what the challenges are going to be are to achieving that. So it's just breaking down into very bite-sized, small things that you can do day in, day out. Because, they're standing at the bottom of El Cap, looking at the very top of it 1,000 meters away. You can't comprehend how you're going to climb it. But what you can do is look at the bit of rock that's right in front of your eyes, and you can climb that bit of rock. And then when you climb that bit, you can look at the next bit, and then you can look at the bit after that. And that's how 6 days later you arrive at the top. And, in 2.5 years to becoming a Paralympic champion, again, that was like, and, I didn't look forward and think, well, in 2.5 years, I'm going to stand on the podium and be a gold medalist. Of course, that was the dream, but actually dreaming about that wasn't going to get me any closer to that. What I need to do was do what the coach said today and then tomorrow, and then, do my stretching. And then I've got the gym on Wednesday. So I need to go to the gym and do what the S&C coach says. And then so it's very small. Like it's always broken down into very manageable chunks. And for most of my career, I worked on a system that kind of went 3 weeks of hard work. And then, which basically got progressively harder and harder as into the third week. And then I'd have an easier week. And for a lot of athletes, they'll have like what they call a rest week. For me, it wasn't. We worked out pretty early on, and I think this is because of my age. That actually, if I took a load of time off, it was really hard to get going again. So I generally kept working pretty hard. I had easier days, but I never had really many rest days off the bike. So even if I had a rest day, I'd probably spend an hour on the bike. So I was pretty much training 7 days a week, which is I wouldn't say super rare, but often people only train 5 to 6 days a week and have a complete day off. Where I found that I always struggled with that day off. Like my body found it really hard to start again. So yeah, so that was the process. It's not rocket science. It's pretty
Yeah,
basic. But obviously for
yeah,
me, certainly with the Paralympic thing, is I had a massive team of people around me. So that's the thing. If you want to achieve great stuff, surround yourself with great people. Surround yourself with people that know what they're talking about, and people that you are accountable to. I think that's the main thing. When you've got a coach who says this is what you need to do today, and at the end of that day, if you haven't done that, he says, why haven't you done this? And that accountability for me, that was massive. And I've worked with a handful of coaches over my career, and all of them have been brilliant. All of them have been great coaches. And I think part of that is just for me, the accountability. Someone says, right, this is what you have to do. So I have to do it. Whether I want to do it or I don't want to do it. Most of the time I don't want to do it because I know it's going to hurt. But, I know at the end of the day, I'm going to have to answer to that coach and tell him, well, I didn't do it because I thought it was going to hurt a bit much. That's excuses. And, we say in the business, we don't want excuses. We want results, right? We want results, or we want solutions. We don't want to hear about your problems or your excuses. We want solutions, or we want results. That's what we want, and
yeah,
that's honesty, right? That's just being honest with yourself. And I guess that's the other side to it, isn't it? About showing up every day and doing the job that you're there to do.
Well, it was interesting hearing the various steps to Steve's achievements. The part where Steve wanted to break his own ankle so he wouldn't have to do something he himself had decided he wanted to do. Well, Steve's medals and honors are symbols of something greater. The relentless hope that fuels resilience. His journey shows us that when we lean into our challenges, we can uncover strengths we never imagined. In part 3, we'll look forward to the future and we'll explore the lessons Steve has learned and the lessons he wants to carry forward and the legacy he hopes to leave behind. Thank you for staying with us for part 2. And remember, truly, there is no depth too great for God to reach. No situation so hopeless that He cannot turn it around. God bless you for watching. Bye-bye.